his YouTube. When he comes on, I'll have him tell you where you can find him. But he's on Spotify as well. There he is.
What's good?
What's good, brother? Good to have
All
you
right.
on, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
thank you.
taking the
Thank you for
time.
playing the music too. I apologize. I'm usually timely, but my buddy Ali, he's down in Georgia. They're trying to stop the steal, and they threw me on with audio with Alex Jones out there real quick. So I was chatting with him.
Oh,
They
that's
had them doing a
super dope.
Periscope, so I hopped on real quick, and he was playing my song as well. I'm overwhelmed with the love tonight, so I appreciate y'all.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Your page has turned into one of my favorite pages, man. When your lives, it was funny. Last week I was by my girl's house and in the bedroom, and she was like coming in the room, and you went live, and I'm like, hold up, I gotta watch An0maly live.
Damn,
So
that's
yeah, man. It's like since all of this charade has happened, I mean, I give you mad props from the beginning. I mean, the very beginning. I saw you posting about it. Obviously, you have a lot of knowledge with everything you talk about. But I've gone live with doctors, random accounts, truthers, and everybody has their own perspective on what's going on. But I thought bringing you on, you could bring your perspective. I love your approach and everything, man. So
awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
yeah. So what do you see right now, man?
Today I just launched exposedlockdowns.com. It's like a 10-page packet that I'm going to print out myself, and it's printable, and I'm going to give it to small businesses because, I was hesitant at first when the virus first came and they're, fear mongering. No one really knows, like, is this really, really bad? It could be a deadly weapon, a bioweapon, a mistake, from a bat. Everybody was kind of confused. It just came out of nowhere. So I was hesitant, but as I started really looking at the data and stuff, I was realizing, nothing they're saying is making sense. First, they said it had a huge death rate. And then when that fell down, they didn't seem to change their plan. They said that they were only temporarily, I think, people remember 15 days to slow the spread. And after that happened, it was like, we're just temporarily slowing it to stop the overwhelming of hospitals. That's the narrative they gave us. And then I saw that a lot of hospitals were actually not overwhelmed. Most of them were. A lot of people lost their jobs. They missed cancer screenings. I mean, there were a lot of negative effects to what they did. And then after that, they switched to counting deaths. And then they switched to counting cases. So I actually have a book here too. It's called How to Lie with Statistics. And it was actually on Bill Gates's reading list a few years ago. And the whole thing's kind of what they're doing, which is how you can kind of manipulate data to say what you want it to say, depending how you're doing it and if people are paying attention. So I've seen them just move the goalposts. And then I start researching further and further, and you see them, bragging about the Great Reset and how they think this is a perfect time to switch the global system. And then I started doing more research and realizing they've been talking about this for years. So I'm starting to realize, I don't think this is really about health as much as it is about politics and global control. And I think you're a healthy guy. I try to be a healthy guy. Anybody that goes to gym, works out, tries to eat healthy, understands the negative impacts of being cut off from social interaction, being cut off from health facilities. I'm in California. They just shut my gym down again. A lot of people are unhappy about it. So this narrative that they're saying, like, it's like lockdowns are great, and if you disagree, you're going to kill your grandma. They're ignoring the science, the facts, and the data behind all the horrible things that are happening. And I just want to add one more thing. The Guardian just reported that over 400,000 people will die this year from tuberculosis in excess because of all the COVID madness. They're running everybody in circles. And now that, millions of people have missed their screenings, just like in the US, tens, if not hundreds of thousands have missed cancer screenings. And I know it's someone personally who's going to die because they got their screening delayed. And by the time they ended up getting to the doctor, it was too late. So these are the games that they're playing. And it's really just sick. And I feel bad for the average person who knows it's happening, but really can't do anything about it.
Yeah. As you were saying, like all this, it started with the new normal, the Great Reset, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. It's basically, as you put it, communism, and that's basically what we're looking at right now. And they're using COVID, and it's frustrating to me because, like you said, it's the cases. We're not really looking at the deaths at all. And people, another thing that's frustrating to me is seeing, because I'm in LA as well. I'm trying to get the hell out of here. I'm in LA County, and it's a shit show. And it's everywhere with these testing centers, people are lined up. So it doesn't make sense to me how they're lined up to get the test, they're counting cases, and they're locking us down,
Yeah, counting cases is crazy because I mean every November through February, I would think that flu cases rise, common cold cases rise. It's called the flu season. So
Right.
I knew even back in June, it's like how would they not rise now? Like people were like, "Do you think they're going to lock down again?" I'm like, unless this virus completely disappears out of thin air, like a magic trick, like how could it not? And then I'm listening to Cuomo, my friend from New York, New Jersey, showed it to me, and he's talking about how it's like 3% is the orange area, and they're using these buzzwords, and he's showing these charts where like South Dakota's terrible and New York's doing great, when in reality the real metric that matters is death per capita, like how many people are dying, how big's your population. New York and New Jersey are doing the top two worst in deaths per capita, and that's scaled for population size. So South Dakota's doing much better, but they keep doing like you said, like get in line and get the test, and then if the tests reach a certain threshold, they shut down. I mean, this is insane. Even when like the cases are up and the deaths are down from what they were in March, April, and June. So it's a sick game, and that's why I made exposedlockdowns.com, because it's a printable packet where I'm hoping I could bring it to small businesses and people can kind of see. I have mainstream articles, Washington Post, Guardian, where they're saying like hundreds of millions of people might die from starvation. Already millions of people are dying from other effects of the lockdowns. And I just don't see the data that they're effective. I mean, I know they're not effective. And like you said, when you get into who these people are and what they believe in, you can see that they're really using this opportunity to consolidate power in the big tech companies, the big media companies. They're swallowing everything up, and that's what they've wanted to do for years. So it's hard to think this is a coincidence or random.
Yeah, especially like you said with the flu season. That me and a few friends out here that are kind of on the same page said the same thing. Why wouldn't they use the flu season as a way to implement another lockdown? A lot of people who are just kind of on the surface of things said this is all going to end after the election. And I'm like, I don't see, this is a global agenda. This isn't ending, as soon as somebody gets in office.
No, you nailed it. A lot of people, who like Trump told me all year, they're like, this is just to get him out of office. And I'm like, I'm sure that's part of it, but yes, why would it end after the election? I think you're wrong. And now it's after the election and people are clearly wrong. And yes, it's going to continue until people, wake up to that. And realize it. And with the flu, if you look at the numbers, they're talking about where's the flu? Where's the flu?
Yeah.
In my life, they've told me I've had the flu like 5 times, and I've never ever once had a flu test. Like if you don't have strep throat and the main things they test you for that you need like maybe antibiotics for, they just say you have the flu, or you have, that's like a generic kind of phrase that they, it's hard to really calculate because they don't test for the flu like they test for COVID. So now if you have a cough in some states and you don't have access to the rapid test, they'll just put you down for COVID. You could fall off a ladder, die on a bicycle. They'll call it COVID if you had COVID in your system, or they claimed you had COVID in your system, and they don't even need to test. And this is when I started really sounding the alarm. I don't remember what month it was. New York Times said that when the deaths really surged in New York City and they scared everyone, over 1,000 people added to that death list never had a COVID test. And this isn't, I try to explain it to people and break it down. Like, this isn't like, I'm not reading it off Infowars.com, or it's not even like a fringe right-wing conspiracy site or whatever they want. Like, this is like New York Times, mainstream news. They're telling you they're adding people to the list without getting a test. Like, that's a little odd, so people, I don't know what the masses are doing, but I've been trying to do what I can to try to tell people this never ends until we end it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. And that's why I love what you do, because I know you were on to Trump, but you're also not biased. You provide information, you provide resources, and statistics as well. So I appreciate you doing that. Where do you see this going the next couple months? I mean, because you said you're in California. Are you planning to stay here during all this, or?
It's tough because I think like every state besides South Dakota has some sort of a lockdown. I know Florida and Texas say they're not going to do a second lockdown, but they still, in the cities, there's some weird stuff. So it seems like it took over the whole, country really. So yeah, I'm definitely looking at land in places that is more free. But, I do want to wake my community up and try to get it. It's, California has the best weather, best real estate, in my opinion, in the country, or at least one of them. So, at a certain point, people are going to have to like flip and, just open their business. And I think what I'm doing with the packets, like I'm going to pass them out in my neighborhood, and hopefully people will all across the country. is show businesses like, listen, these people who are enforcing these laws are not listening to them, and your business is going to die. And one of these tech companies is going to swallow it up, and they're never going to say sorry. They're never going to give you an explanation. So, and also, Gavin Newsom's been blocked a few times with these unconstitutional executive orders. I'm not even sure how legal this is. I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but he's gotten blocked twice, and he's in court still now for it. So the chances are it's really like a mind control sort of thing where, I think you do like healthy food and holistic stuff where, like, some of these commercials, they just brainwash you with the pills and brainwash you with the food. Like, at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but like, did you eat it? Did you take it? Like, they're not shoving it down your throat yet. So it is kind of up to us. Like, everybody's just playing along. And I feel like it's our fault just as much as it's theirs for just allowing them to control the way we think and what we do.
Yeah, I saw you posted on your story about what you were talking about. I would love to grab that because my girlfriend has a restaurant in San Diego, and from the very beginning, she never shut down. She doesn't wear masks. She's the owner. She does not wear a mask. She said the cops called on her 9 times. And just recently, they said no more indoor dining. I saw that they're trying to implement something where you have a small percentage of people outside, when who knows if they're going to take it away completely. But what I told her to do is and she's doing it, is trying to get with all the business owners. It's like, if all the small business owners got together and stood up, they can't do, what are they going to do? But if it's just one person like her, she's going to continually get fined. She's going to get shut down. So it's like, at what point, this is something you've worked all your life for, something you put your heart and soul into, and you're going to just allow them to shut down your dream,
You nailed it. When you stick out like a sore thumb or like a nail with a hammer if it's just you, but if everyone did it like you said, then it's easy to get over. And I'm talking to the restaurants by me, and I'm thinking, like, you're gonna take a hit from this, right? And they're like, yeah, well, yeah, because there is outdoor seating, but it's the difference between being able to seat 20 families and 60 families, and normally they could seat 80 families. So it's like every which way they're whittling down. And in my packet too, I try to make it simple because I have so much information, but I know people don't like to read a lot. There's one page that's really simple. It shows that 100,000 businesses have gone out of business, and Jeff Bezos and the tech companies, the billionaires that are promoting that you can't disagree with that, they're doing better than ever. So it's like they have financial and economic interests to keep you locked down, because the more you lock down, the more you lose, the more it goes to them. Like I order, Whole Foods, Amazon, because I really don't like wearing a mask and going into places, and places treat me like crap. So I'm like, why would I give you my money when you treat me like I'm infected, when I'm like a healthy person, So I'm just like, I don't even like wearing a mask for a second. So I end up ordering online.
Right. Yeah. I'm the same way, man. I'm like anti-mask, and people think I'm insensitive and whatnot, but it's like, when this is off subject, but I was very unhealthy, 70 pounds heavier on medication all during my 20s and early 30s, and changed my life with my diet. So I know how to take care of myself now, and I call bullshit right away with all this. But what I was going to say is, what would you say, besides the small business, what we can do with the small businesses? What way can we take action right now? Because we're obviously continually, especially what you're doing, spreading the message, trying to awaken more people, because collectively, if it's going to be, we have to do it that way if we're going to do it at all. What other forms of action can we take right now? Because a lot of people want solutions.
Yeah, that's why someone was asking where they can get the packet. It's just exposelockdowns.com. And that's the temporary solution that I came up with, because I'm like,
Okay.
listen, I'm one person, I do online videos, but I'm like, I want to get it digital. So on that website, it's a 10-page packet. What I'm doing personally, I'm printing it out. Anybody could print it out in the United States, give it to small businesses. Like, I'm going to go around to the businesses and try to explain to them, this is not healthy. This is actually not the safe route. This is not like the good route. This is like whittling you down to nothing. So if we can get enough people to reject it, that's the golden question, though. It's like, how do we, do that? A physical protest is one thing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Huntington Beach area, but they did the anti-mask protest. They're in SoCal, but just south of Los Angeles. And I was down there maybe like 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and I walk into a store, he doesn't have a mask on. Like, they don't bother you, because that whole block, it's so conservative and kind of like Trumpy, where they're just like, we're not doing it. And some do, but some don't. And there's too many businesses, and I'm not sure that anybody does anything about it. It's just kind of known on that main street that no one wears a mask. So they've successfully, as a community, I think, gotten over it. where if it's just your girlfriend, like you said, you know, then she's going to stick out. But if it's 10 or 20 businesses, they're going to run out of room. And eventually a lot of these cops, I mean, I'm sure they got to think it's bullshit as well. I don't think they want to wear a mask forever or enforce this. So it's got to come from like a mass collective. So I've done it digitally. I've tried to raise awareness digitally. And now with the exposedlockdowns.com, I'm going to do it physically by having packets and just, you know, passing them out and hopefully, you know, convincing enough business owners to reject it, because, you know, there's only so much one can do. And I know Ali, my buddy, is doing, it's called the Stop the Steal protest. There's a big one in DC, and we're not really working together, but I see that like they're concerned with President Trump in the election, and they're tired of like, you know, phony people in both parties who say one thing and like, you know, the Republicans aren't even helping them. So they're kind of mobilizing peacefully and just showing up and being like, you're never going to win an election again if you don't, you know, audit this election. Where I'm kind of trying to hopefully get that to grow over. And after, regardless of if Trump wins or loses, like, I don't think anybody has a solution for this lockdown. Biden certainly doesn't. And Trump all year was not able to really counter the you know, Democrat areas. So, you know, people physically just being like, listen, I'm not buying your product. We're not doing it. And if enough people on all levels of that protest, not only like peacefully in person, but also, you know, financially, as far as like not buying from certain companies or opening up and supporting the companies they like, that's the only way. But there has to be enough people. And right now in most areas, there's just not. I know real quick, and I'm gonna throw it back to you, in LA, I think it's called, I forget the name of the gym, Zoo Culture. His name is Bradley Martin. He's been open the entire time, and he's been eating up fines, I think, and such. But for the most part, they've stayed open. They've tried to turn off his power like a communist country, and he just doesn't care. He keeps it moving. He has a generator. I think he gets fines, but he's got like GoFundMe's. And the American people are so nice. Like if something bad happens to you when you're being brave, you will make even more money than you did before. You know, if you become that type of icon, like people will give you $200,000. Like that's how good the American people are. So they want you to be afraid. They feed off your fear. So if we can get enough business owners to drop the fear, we can beat this in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, they're being stuck with the fear from watching all the mainstream news and stuff. And with saying that, I don't watch the news or TV at all. I used to be into sports, played sports. I boxed, played basketball in my early 20s, and watched the NBA. But it's crazy, man. I just lost all ambition to watch sports at all or even pay attention to sports because just seeing that basically they are puppets, you know. And I loved, I shared it with so many people, the video that you articulated so well with the Malcolm X and LeBron James, where he's walking with the LeBron James book. It's sad because unfortunately society looks up to these people, looks up to the celebrities, and they're just nothing but sellouts.
Yeah, it's a shame, and I think that culture has become so strong where it's like if you're not that way, they're so intolerant and insane. It's similar to like you think like liberal to conservative, like LA is so liberal, but like if you really want to see where the biggest skew is, go to DC. If you look at voting patterns, it was like 93% voted for Joe Biden and like 5% voted for Trump. Where even LA is like probably like 30, 60. It's not as bad as people think, but like in sports, like that elitist mentality is probably like 99-1. Not in how people feel, but if you are like even like a Kanye West or like someone like, hey, I'm going to stand for the anthem, or like, you know what, I'm just like, I don't want to just do what they say. I'm going to be a free thinker and go all over the place. They hate that. And, you know, the commercials and the people that really run their pockets, like you see these commercials, it's all pill commercial, high fructose. They're all doing Sprite commercials and Coke commercials. They won't say anything about China, but they have no problem, you know, commenting about America. So they really are sellouts where it's like, you know, even if I was famous, I don't know. I mean, if I was like mainstream famous, I don't know that I would do a Sprite or a Coke commercial. I know they have a lot of money, but it's like, I don't want to fill people up with high fructose corn syrup. I'd rather, you know, get them on a better product. So these are the decisions they make, and they just become so shallow and like either brainwashed or just like they care about other things more than like health.
Yeah, man. And it wasn't until I got healthy that I started waking up to an extent and seeing that and getting off of the TV for so many years. And then last week I was in a nail salon with my girlfriend, and the TV was on, and we were just looking, and it had the news on. And it's crazy because it's like, it's such bullshit. Like you just watch it and you're like, this is such bullshit. How do people not see through this? And then, like you said, followed by a Wendy's commercial, followed by a Pfizer commercial. It's like this whole mass propaganda system that nobody seems to notice.
And the crazy part is they tell you, like, for me, they've kind of messed with my Facebook because I got 600 million views, and then they found a way to like cut my reach, and they said I was fake news, and they couldn't even really articulate it. But they'll say that if I said questioning big pharma companies, like that's a conspiracy theory. But when you watch TV, they have a commercial that says if you took the pharmacy pill that they told you to 5 years ago, you're entitled to a lawsuit. So what's going on there. These products that they're selling, they backfire quite often. Johnson & Johnson products, this, like, half the commercials are literally lawsuits to sue the company from 15 years ago that hurt you, that told you that it was a safe product. So I'm like, this is like mainstream news. I'm not making this stuff up. You can't not, like, I don't even watch TV, but when I do, I'm like disgusted. Yeah, it's like pill, lawyer, sue the pill company from last time. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, just the commercials alone are like mind control. I don't even like letting that into my system. It's not good even just to like watch.
Yeah, for sure. So how bad do you think this can get if there is no like if there's no pushback? How bad do you think moving forward? Like, I'm just saying till the end of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy too because there's always, I think, a scheme to get people to not focus on this stuff. Like, as soon as the lockdown protests started getting really popular, you had the George Floyd tragedy, and then that took over both sides of politics for 4 months. And then as soon as that ended, like, I noticed people on the right were like, let's wait till after the election, because the election's coming up. And now that the election happened, the election's still not over. Trump's saying he won, Biden's saying he won. And I feel like that's going to drag out for 3 months. And although it's important, it does feel like political theater where it's like, how we can't address the elephant in the room, which is the fact our whole country is getting locked down. I mean, even the president, who seems like he's a freedom fighter, sometimes he's tweeting about the vaccine more than the lockdowns, where I'm like, we're really on our own. And regardless of what him or anyone else feels on the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, it's going to take like grassroots people to do something about it. But in my opinion, you have one side of politics just totally brainwashed by mass media and the elites, and the other side that just kind of waits for the president to tell them what to do. And no one seems to notice this. And like, most businesses do not even have a week or 2 weeks to shut down. Like, when they shut down for 2 weeks, I'm thinking how bad this is. It's been 8 months and they still haven't stopped. So yeah, I mean, I think it could get pretty bad, but I think it could get worse in the next couple of years. Like, I think they're really coming for the whole thing. Like, I think they incrementally did this, and now they're just throwing it all at us. And I think what they want to do is clear. These big wig groups, they meet at stuff like Davos every year, which is run by the World Economic Forum. They plan out stuff like this, and it's not even a theory. You can see what they say. They want you to have nothing, no privacy, no private property. They want to own and control everything, like a utopian technological society. But the problem is these people kind of suck, like, they think that like they're very trustworthy and forward thinking, but you look at the cities they run and like how they operate, and you're like, man, they don't even seem to be tolerant to like holistic food. So if they run everything, what type of society are they going to run? So yeah, I think it could be a very very tough times if people don't fight back, or at least push back in some sort of peaceful way within the next, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, that's been the saddest thing, I think, at least for me this whole time, is there's not been no pushback. Like, everything like you said, all these little increments, there hasn't been no pushback. If anything, the people that don't want to wear the mask, the people that are being censored, are the ones looking like the ones that are crazy.
And I'm reading the comment too. Like, someone said so there's no virus, guys, like maybe like mocking us as if no one said there's not a virus. At least I didn't. And if you look at the top 6 countries in deaths per capita, which is deaths per population size, all top 6 of them had lockdowns. So I'm not saying there's not a virus. Viruses exist, coronaviruses exist, the flu exists, but this is like a new strategy. Like, we've always known that bad things exist, but would you ever, like, when I used to get sick all the time, I would be in my house and I wouldn't exercise, I wouldn't go out. This is not working. That all the data shows from countries that the lockdowns are not only killing businesses, they're actually killing people. They're actually, they're taking healthy elderly societies with jazz night and food night, shutting all of it down, and they're treating the elderly like prisoners. This is not this foolproof strategy. I mean, that, you know, it's like this never made sense, but this year the media just rails it into people's heads, and then when you try to, you know, tell people it's not right, they're like, so it's not real. It's like, no, it is real, but this strategy is nuts. You know, like they made people think that like wearing a mask, not opening a gym, like sitting on your couch and not allowing your grandma to exercise is this like really nice thing to do. It's really evil, and it's really counterproductive.
And the thing is like, so when does this end? Like you said, like you see the Thanksgiving, they don't want to say have Thanksgiving, they don't want to say have Christmas. They're saying next year. What's going to stop this from happening next year with basically a sniffle or a cough being a COVID symptom, you know? So at what point do we not do we and what the vaccine's going to come out and that's going to miraculously cure everything, you know? So
yeah, it's gonna have to be enough people not listening, and unfortunately, because of mass media and how polarizing things have gotten, it's become like a political issue. I come from a place where I never liked either side of politics, but to me, it always seemed like the liberals who were like pro holistic health, pro working out, pro, you know, oat milk lattes and like things that were like, you know, more forward thinking and stuff. And something happened with the Trump presidency where it almost like reversed, and now like, you know, because of Trump's stance, it's like the left is like masks, like lockdowns. And now you have, it's like Texas and South Dakota are the states that are rebelling against this. So, you know, I think unfortunately that's what it's going to take. And also those happen to be the people who believe in the Second Amendment, which is going to come in handy, you know, the right to bear arms if you have like this crazy thing. So I think the resistance really, it shouldn't be political, but it's going to be the, you know, 50 to 200 million Americans who are going to, you know, say, I'm not doing this anymore. And the states that lead the way. And then I think like, you know, California and New York, they're losing a lot of people to Florida and Texas because you can actually live there, not only cheaper because of tax laws, but also not wear a mask and like have a social life. So, you know, it might collapse on its own. And where does this go from here? I've been warning people because I heard so many people, they're like, you know, Trump doesn't want the mandatory vaccine. First of all, he might not be there next year. Second of all, it doesn't matter what he wants because you have, you know, cities like Los Angeles, all these major tech companies, they're not listening to the president either way, and they do want it. So they can do vaccine checks and like they're doing mass testing now. There is no other solution. I think a lot of people are like waiting for someone to save them, but it does, in my opinion, have to be like whether it's 2%, 5%, 10%, 20% of the population who says like no more, and that's what they see as like a threat, you know, when people don't listen. So yeah, I don't know, it could go any way, but if enough people reject it, I think it's going to be hard for them to implement.
are you going to take the vaccine if it comes?
Hell no, it's
And
funny too.
do you think they'll mandate it to the point where they're coming to your door? Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't think they're going to come to our door anytime soon. But what I do think they're going to do is like they control so much. So like they could say like, you know, Uber, Lyft, United Airlines, or American Airlines, you know, cruises, Ticketmaster.
Ticketmaster.
Ticketmaster already said it. So it's like, you know, you don't have to get the vaccine, but you're not going here, you're not going here, you're not going here. And that's kind of what this year was anyway before the vaccine. I don't like wearing the mask, so it's like, where can I go? There's only a few places. So I think that's more at like social isolation. Your kids can't go to school. You can't go to college. You can't go to the concert. You can't fly. But you don't have to take it, but you can't do anything.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like everything is digital now. Digital fans. It's and I don't see it changing. I saw somebody said I saw an article about that the Lakers or the Los Angeles Lakers said we won't be having fans in the stands anytime soon because apparently they're not doing the bubble no more with basketball. They're going to be traveling. I don't know how they're going to go about that from city to city, but
It's really frustrating too because this is not like an abnormal thing. Like people get sick, but like I'll give you an example I've used a lot. I used to go on cruises before they ruined the whole cruise thing, and the average age is 70 to 80. So every cruise I was on, there was a near-death experience. Like they had a helicopter come in, they rushed back because when you have, it's like a nursing home on water. So, you know, out of that crowd, like one of the grandmas is going to have a little accident and they fly back. And like, I'm sure they survive a lot of times, but this is not abnormal when you have that many old people. Now, as soon as COVID happens or something happens with COVID, now it's shut down. You have COVID, like you think no one's ever got the flu at a game or fallen and hit their head. Like they got 20,000 people in a stadium or more than that. there's going to be accidents or sicknesses. This is not abnormal. But now they've like programmed people to make it such a thing that they're going to use it to shut down forever. And it sounds crazy, but these people behind it at the real top of it, like the World Economic Forum, they want a great reset. They call it the fourth industrial revolution, and they literally want the technology companies and the politicians, who work for them to run and control everything, like a government that's synced together where they literally control everything. They almost already do control everything, but with this shutdown, they're really trying to weed out any of the competition physically. That's why everything's digital now. And anybody that could stay afloat before them, they're trying to axe them out. So then in 5 or 10 years, they own and control everything. And it is communist in a sense. And real quick, I want to say a lot of people who are socialist or communist, they think like, well, this is the working revolution. We're fighting the top. If you read the Communist Manifesto, he wants control of the banks, control of the media, control of transportation. To me, I read it. It didn't strike me as like, oh, this is a working revolution. It struck me as like, this is a wealthy guy trying to convince working people to give them everything. Like, it doesn't matter left or right. If someone's like, hey, give me your car, give me your house, no private property, we own the banks, like, and then we're going to help you. It sounds like when you're a kid and you go up and some guy's like, hey, come in my van, I have candy. I'm like, this does not sound like a revolution. That's why Amazon's behind it. That's why they're all playing along. Because a lot of these people on the socialist left are like, man, we're going to fight. They're just using you until they have everything, and then you're gone. I think that's kind of the plan.
And you're right, man. I mean, they literally control everything. The agribusiness, is the media, literally everything. And when they control the media, I just saw that film about how Google. I mean, we all know already that Google's gone. I mean, they've blacklisted everything. You can't get information on anything. That's another thing. Do you have a search engine that is not that you could search that's not censored or anything?
I think DuckDuckGo is one of the popular ones.
It was, but apparently Google. Somebody yesterday said Google owns them now or something.
I'll look into it, but yeah, I was using them a lot, but that's the problem. Either they buy it up or they have a way to like any like alternate YouTube. They attack the servers. They smear the people there. They really try to control it. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure in health and with what you're doing as well, like it's shot. Anything you look for, it's like warning, don't go there. Warning, don't look here. Like, come to us, drink the high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't get no information on vaccines, no negative information on vaccines. I mean, I've worked firsthand in functional medicine when I used to live in Chicago, and I saw the effects of kids that were being vaccinated. And I'm not saying all vaccine. I'm not saying I'm 100% anti-vax, but I don't think that's the answer for what we're dealing with right now. Especially given what it's a 99% recovery rate. The people that are dying, it's what 95% of them are obese or have 2.5 or more comorbidities, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the elderly community is the most at risk or obese, but that's every disease. And also
every disease.
If you get COVID-19 and you die with COVID-19, they say you died from COVID-19. So they're cooking the books. The virus itself has a higher survival rating than the vaccine does with the 90% efficiency. That's not that impressive for a 99. I get COVID, I have a 99.99 chance of surviving that. And like you said, with the vaccines, I always was a little skeptical, but I used to think certain things were crazy that certain people were saying. But this year really justified everything. And when you get into the laws and stuff, they need indemnification. You'll hear Bill Gates talk about it all the time, indemnification, because that means, coverage, and it comes through government. If they don't have coverage for lawsuits, then they'll lose a lot of money. So they need to make sure that they're covered somehow, because there are going to be people, no matter what the percentage is, who have adverse effects to it. And there's this one really crazy video that woke up a lot of people that were like questioning me all year. It's they were questioning him on the Moderna vaccine months ago, and how like everybody was having like side effects and their arm was hurting. And Bill Gates' body language was just so poor, and his answers were so bad. Even people who were calling me crazy were like, whoa, this is alarming. Because like any common sense person watches that and you're like, something's just not right about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like if you go to a hospital and ask a doctor what's in a vaccine, they're not going to be able to tell you what's exactly in it. And I had a doctor on yesterday that was explaining, because my mom reversed heart disease naturally, did not have no surgery, nothing, got off 8 medications, changing her diet and lifestyle, and going to the hospital appointments and seeing the doctors, like how they, talked to her, and they didn't know the things that we were giving her and the supplements and the different types of variations of mushrooms and stuff over the course of a year. When you go down that rabbit hole, that's what kind of woke me up to a lot of what's happening right now, and finding out that the Rockefellers basically created big pharma, the whole medical paradigm. And that's why doctors, I mean, they're indoctrinated with this medical degree that was created by big pharma. So it's a really deep, dark rabbit hole that when you go down that, you start questioning everything. And that's how, right from the beginning of all this, I'm like, hold up.
Yeah. And I think like Western medicine, they're good at like stitching things up and, getting you back to normal. But with the pills and holistic stuff, yeah, they seem a little clueless by design. And, it's a big money game. I mean, even with the vaccine, they try to say that it's crazy to suggest that anyone would have financial interest. But you have people that have spent billions of dollars on a product that they want to give to the whole planet. So you're telling me if you spend billions of dollars on a product and there's 50 competing products and one of them you could sell for $1,000 pop and one you could sell for $10, like and the news will shut you down. It's like, I'm not saying it's for sure happening, but the fact that you won't even allow me to question that kind of proves that it's true. So like, I'm guessing the ones that have the big money behind it, they're not just going to waste that, or they're not going to try to. So there's a lot of games being played, and it's unfortunate to say the least. But hopefully, a lot of people are realizing that.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I've noticed myself, doctors, specifically being a vegan, people have tagged me into vegan doctors posts that are posting things that are basically following the mainstream narrative, mask, social distance, sanitize the hell out of yourself. And basically, like I was saying, it's mostly due to med school. And if a lot of these doctors, whether they're sellouts or not, will have their license taken away if they start speaking. So I know plenty of holistic doctors that have mentioned that to me. You can't say too much, otherwise you'll have your license revoked.
That's the main thing. Like, they went crazy hard at those doctors who were, calling out the pandemic early on. Like
quacks immediately. They were called quacks immediately.
And that's true to a lot of industries too. Like athlete, if you want to live peacefully, you don't question things. That the media, like, there's maybe one network that you can maybe get a job at if you speak the truth. Every other one will try to destroy you. And I think that's how they control people, with fear. Either they're indoctrinated by what they're told in school, or, people are afraid to step out of line. But that's what I want to show people, at least. And like I said, with businesses, like, businesses are afraid to step out of line because they're going to lose a lot of money and get fined. But I'm telling you, America's a great place where if you do that, there's going to be people who are going to support you. Shelley Luther in Texas opened her hair salon, got arrested, made a lot of money, and then won in court. Ian Smith in New Jersey ran a gym. He's getting fined hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people are supporting him. So, we will help you. We'll find ways to help you if you do step up, because everyone's kind of like, even to me, they're like, aren't you afraid saying this or that? And I'm like, if you want to be honest, I'm doing better than I've ever done in my life. Even with the censorship, when they steal my money, I find other ways to monetize, and I'm doing better. I'm more free. I'm happier. So it's like, everything comes at a cost, but being afraid is really not the answer. And eventually, like, they'll scare you. And then that safe route is not safe anymore. Like, I thought my job was now safe on the internet, and then they shut the whole society down, and my mom's out of a job, even though she has a safe job. This person's out of a job. I'm the only one working somehow in March and April making videos, because they flipped the world. So it's not the 70s or 80s anymore. Like, safe jobs are not safe, especially now. So we have to step up. We have to be brave, and that's the way to beat it.
We have to, man. I mean, you got to think about it. I always say this in my lives. It's like, you can easily make money posting things and posting for companies or doing whatever you do, but where's the integrity in that? And we're in one of the most important times in mankind, like, where, why not? If you have some type of knowledge, speak up, talk about it, raise awareness.
And there's ways to really monetize that. Like, when I was rapping and just, I was never like a sellout. Like, I still said things I believed in, but I was trying to fit into this space, and they would tell me, like, rap about women, rap about drugs. Like, That's what they told me. Like, don't rap about politics. And I wasn't even really political, but I'm talking about bin Laden. Like, I'm talking like crazy conspiracy stuff. And they're like, bro, you got to like chill with that. It's like, that's not going to be mainstream. And now I feel like I'm running circles around those artists. I even have offers from like big magazines and stuff where it's like, there's still people out there, not very many, but the people who are real, they realize that this is big. And one of the reasons they cut my cord a little bit on Facebook is because I was outperforming the president. I was on the top 10 pages in the entire United States. Once I went on there, I wasn't even that happy about it. I was like, shit, now they're going to come for me once they see me there. But it's like, they can't figure out why, but it's because people want authenticity. So, I mean, they could try what they want, shut this and that down, but the more they shut down, the more it floods. Someone mentioned the pandemic thing, and that was a documentary. They blocked it. You can't send it on Facebook. You can't even send it on private message. I think the reason they blocked it is because it got like 100 million views, and they're crying in New York Times. It got more views than Taylor Swift, and it's like, that just shows you something that something's there that people want to watch, and they blocked it, and it's still outperformed like pop stars. So they can't block it as fast as it's gonna pop up on a new website.
Yeah, man. I mean, people are definitely questioning now, and I feel that this second time around, I do have hope, and I'm optimistic that there will be some resistance. Like even the David Icke thing, he had over, I forgot how many views, but people want to know what the hell is going on. And I noticed that. I mean, you months ago go on Bill Gates's page, everybody's flooding in his comments, talking about stuff, and so I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be able to push back a little bit. Because I mean, I hope so. I'm in LA County, so I'm right in the heart of it.
The lockdown protests in Europe are getting pretty huge. In America, they've kind of been kneecapped. One, the protests and the riots, but that's actually interesting. In communist books, they've talked about for 100 years. In America, the racial diversity of America, as much as it's seen as a pro, and in many ways it is, good food, good culture, different people, they see that as a way to divide people. So they're always, that's why the media, it's like this, that, they're always looking for a good dividing narrative instead of like a uniting narrative. Like it could be like two babies like hugging each other, but they instead go for like the cop who kills the person. So they're going to keep exploiting that to really kneecap the lockdown protests. And then also this election. I mean, as much as I think it's real and it really is like a crisis, I think they're going to drag this out forever. And, the good news is that a lot of people for the president are really mobilizing. They did a huge march in DC, and those are the same people really who oppose the lockdown. So I think there's going to be, what I'm hoping for is as soon as that ends and they figure out what's going on there, that becomes kind of the anti-lockdown protest, because regardless of who wins, and this is what I'm telling people, I just don't see the solution coming. Like there is no magic person that's going to save us. And I'm not talking like God or biblically, like in that I actually do believe, but I'm talking about human politician form. Like eventually, if we want to, save this, we're going to have to rise up in numbers one way or another.
And do you think that if this does get overturned and he gets in, we're in trouble, there's going to be a civil war?
I think it's inevitable either way, really, because I think people have already rioted. They're already upset. If Biden wins, he's lockdown king. He wants lockdowns, mask mandates. He's the puppet of the technology companies, World Economic Forum. You're going to get no answers out of him. Like Trump does press conferences for hours. And the annoying part is they don't ask any good questions. They ask the stupidest questions. And, it becomes like a whole, like, did you condemn? I'm like, ask about the pandemic. Like, they don't ask anything. But with Biden, you get no answers. With Trump, here's my thing. It's like, people are going to get mad. I'm not really worried about that because I think they get mad all the time anyway. But, like, they're not accepting his win either way. And if he gets in, Uber's not listening to him. Lyft's not going to listen to him. Like, I feel like they're going to stage a coup. They saw his first presidency as illegitimate. This one, clearly, they're going to see as more illegitimate. Like, something's going down either way. I hate to say it, and I'm not saying in a scary, fearful way, but, like, win or lose, I feel like people just expect, like, things to just, like, boil down, but I just don't think they will. There's, like, so much brainwash, so much division, so much, hyper partisanship. So I think something exciting is going to happen either way. And we are gonna have to be a part of it either way, because like even if Trump wins, he's not going to be able to stop the lockdowns. I really don't think he will.
Yeah, I mean he didn't earlier this year, so that's what I said too. So I just hope, man, that, you know, with all the stuff being created and all the distractions and all the divide, that we come together, you know, at some point.
It's got to happen, but I don't know like what to do about someone. I was walking the other day near a highway. They walk out onto the highway. I'm thinking they're crossing just so they don't cross paths with me because of the coronavirus. Where I'm like, how? What do you do about somebody that is so afraid of a coronavirus that they won't even look at you in the face and walk at you? They think Trump's a dictator, but they want dictator Trump to put a mask on them and shut the country down. Like I'm like, it's one thing not to like the guy. It's another thing to think he's a dictator and want that dictator to put you in a lockdown similar to World War II. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like, how do you, where do we go from there? Like, they're walking away. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. Like, literally like almost getting hit by a car just to not walk past me. I'm like, I went to Yosemite. They're wearing masks outside, like just like in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm like, what do you do about this? I don't understand how to cure this type of brainwash.
Yeah, I was in Sequoia Park, man. What is it? 6,000 feet elevation. Same thing. We actually got into it. Our group got into it with the people behind us because we didn't even say nothing about them. We just said something about masks. And the lady turns and she goes, "COVID's gonna get you guys." We're like, "You are up 6,000 feet, like fresh air, and you're
Yeah.
wearing, and you're worried about." And it's sad because I've gotten into altercations as well at stores. Not that I wanted to. At first, it used to be like shock, like somebody would be like, "Get away from me," and I just like was like caught off guard, like, "Wait, what?" And then recently, I was at where the hell was I? I was at Sprouts, and a guy was filming. He's like, and I just went off. I lost it. I'm like, I can't deal with this no more, man. This is crazy that you actually think, especially when you look at his food choices in his cart, that a cloth mask with chemicals is going to protect him. You know?
And if you're at Sequoia, that's like probably the best air in the world if there's no forest fires. And then if this is even like remotely dirty, you're putting a dirty napkin over your face. I'm at the Apple store the other day. I'm just trying to buy a printer outdoors, and the guy comes up to me, security guard is like, do you have a mask on?" I'm like, "No, but I don't know that I'm even going in the store yet. So just let me see if you have the product I want." And then this guy, like, I'm not even joking, like 400, 500 pounds, God bless his soul. He comes up and he's like, "Sir, I'm going to have to, can you step out of line if you don't have a mask?" Outdoor mask. I'm 20 feet away from the next person. I'm like, "Bro, you have 1,099 problems and a mask ain't one, brother." And, you know, no disrespect, but it's like, dude, they're acting like I'm patient number 5. I'm standing there like, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a movie where everyone hates me. I'm like, I take my ball and go home. I literally said, "F you, bro." Like, you know, F you. And then I pouted and went and drank cranberry juice and coffee somewhere. But it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's funny you say that, dude. I was just at dinner a couple nights ago downtown with some friends, and we all were talking about how we feel like it's almost like the Truman Show. Like we feel like we're in a movie, you know. Like during this time, I feel like there's been a large group of people via social media that have intuitively connected and just kind of seen that things aren't right, and then everybody else is like an extra. Everybody's walking with their mask, they're driving with their mask. The driving thing's crazy, man. The driving thing is crazy to me. It's like at first it was like 1 in every 8 cars. Now everybody's masked up in the car.
It's funny you said extra. Like they're like extras in a movie. The meme that went popular last year is NPC, where like I have a shirt like it. They're like the gray characters. Like when you're playing a game, there's the non-playable characters that just say like
Right.
one-liners. It's like the extras in the movie. Like they're not really there.
That's
And
how
if
it
you go
feels.
to South Dakota, I was there this year. It's a whole different planet. Like they're not playing along at all, and it made me really like not like coming back even more. Even though the weather's great, where I'm like, wow, like people don't even realize the psychological war that's going on here. And then you're there, people are smiling, laughing, having a great time. I went to Sturgis, and the official numbers, I think one person died related to COVID that they could trace. They made up some fake theory of like all these people who died. But when they actually traced the real numbers, 1 out of like hundreds of thousands of people. And you're talking about bikers, smokers, drinkers. This is not a healthy, really healthy crowd. No disrespect. It's just, it's a party scene for bikers. And the numbers are like, it's fine. You know, enjoy your life, wash your hands. Don't do heavy drugs unless you want. I guess if you're in Portland, I think it's legal now. I guess you could do like heroin and coke, but you know, I would say don't. You know, but just live your life and take the risks you want to take, and then you know, wash your hands and go to bed. Like this, we don't need to live like a slave for 10 years.
Do you know anybody that has passed away from COVID?
No, I don't know. I don't know anyone that's passed away from COVID. I don't even know anybody in my close circle of friends or family who's got COVID. And I have family members that have been frontline, essential workers the entire time in some of the most heavily cased areas. And I don't know a single person who's even got it. I'm not saying it's not real. I know it's real. I know people have died of it. I've heard the story, but no one that I know directly. I don't even know anyone that's gotten it. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it replaced the flu this year, and I never said it's not real either. I just said that they're being way extra with everything they're doing, and there's way too much going on for a virus like that. I personally have a cousin who had it, who is overweight and does have health issues, who fully recovered, no symptoms. My neighbor, who's like 70, smoker, type 2 diabetic, had a cough and a fever, fully recovered. A friend whose grandfather, 96 years old, fully recovered. So at what point do you start seeing like, okay, well, we're literally locking down the world for this, you know? It's just really, it's just, where's the common sense ain't so common, you know?
it's insane. And I tried to do the video with the numbers where I showed how they're counting, like they're mass counting cases. I've never had a flu test in my entire life. So anybody with the flu, they're just kind of counting that as COVID. They're just like, you have a cough, we'll just call that COVID. They're doing mass tests. Even I did the math, like common cold, I think tens of millions of people get it a year. If they mass tested for the common cold, mass calculated that, and then did the same thing, everybody who died with the common cold died from the common cold, you'd have over 100,000 common cold deaths, because this has never before been a testing thing. Like, oh, if you died with it, you died from it. What does that mean? Like, you could literally, that you could have cancer and then test positive for COVID. They're 100% sure it had nothing to do with your death, and they'll count it anyway in America. So it's like the whole scheme is a lie. And the craziest part, I'm trying to see if I have it on my shelf. The book, How to Lie with Statistics, talks about how, this is in 1950, talks about how they lied with vaccine statistics, talked about how they lied with polling in presidential races, all about how to lie with statistics. And Bill Gates put this in his reading list a few years ago. That's why I bought it. And if I repeat the words of the book that Bill Gates told me to read, they'll call me a conspiracy theorist. They're like, you can't think that. I'm like, Bill Gates told me to read that a few years ago. And I read it, and it's a fantastic book, because it points out all the common sense ways that you can manipulate data and charts to say what you want it to say. It's very simple stuff, but when you read it like that, you're like, oh, that's exactly what they're doing now. So it's like they give it to you and then they penalize you for believing it.
Yeah, I saw a page that I followed today that showed that we're still under the total death counts over the last like 8 years. We're still like on target and are a little bit under. So like you were saying, with the flu going down and like nobody's dying of anything but COVID. And what's crazy is like we are probably, because I'm really big into the health field, we are probably anybody could guess this though, the fattest and sickest we've ever been. And our body is so resilient that yet it still has a 99% recovery rate.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big one, is like the deaths, the yearly deaths. Like, I don't think it's going to be any higher. Like you said, it might be lower. We'll see at the end of the year. But the tough part is getting people to realize this, because they're so plugged into mass media. They have unlimited schemes. I usually akin it to like a magician who has like unlimited tricks, or it's like they count cases, they count this, they could say this. Like Cuomo in New York, I mean, besides New Jersey, they're worst in deaths per capita. And he's on television making South Dakota look bad because they didn't close down, even though South Dakota is nowhere near it in deaths per capita, because he's saying they have more cases now than he did then. It's like cases don't matter. It's death. It's really who dies that matters. And it's like they have unlimited tricks, and people are so partisan. I've never seen anything like the hijack of, to be honest, like I used to consider myself kind of liberally. The liberals the last 4 years, like they used to be pro-holistic, pro-free speech. It used to be conservative shutting speech down. Now they're like pro-big government, pro-intelligence community, pro-war, like pro-mask mandate, pro-lockdown. I'm like, what in the world? They did. I don't know who you're watching, if it's like MSNBC or CNN, but all the networks really are like, I watched Fox News during the election, and they were even worse than CNN. I'm like, all these networks are just toxic. So people I guess, tune into some of these or like these little snarky, like hipster liberal blogs or something, and their mind is just gone. I'm like, what planet are you living on that you think it's a good idea to like live like this for 5 years? It shouldn't be a political issue, but it really has been, because it's like opposite day. Like whatever he says, I'll do the opposite. And he's somehow got them to be like pro-war. They're like, you're leaving Afghanistan too quickly. I'm like, we've been there for 20 years. And like, that was always a left-wing stance. Let's leave the war. If he wants to leave, I want to stay. If he wants to go out, it's like, what are we, like 5 years old playing opposite day? It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, man. All right, so we are at like the hour mark. So before we get cut off, I wanted to see, number one, if you had any closing words, and number two, where people could find you.
Yeah, my Instagram's Dream Rare, and from there you could probably find other links. But I really want to plug, and this isn't a website. I'm making no money off it. It's really just a packet, 10-page packet that you could print out and give to people in your community. I might set up a little like stand and do it. It's exposedlockdowns.com, spelled like that, one word, exposedlockdowns.com. You could read my packet. It's got articles from Washington Post, Guardian, Telegraph, mainstream sources, all of the data to show that lockdowns are not only not good, they actually hurt, and I don't see the correlation between any sort of saving lives like they claim. So exposedlockdowns.com, it's a way to take that digital information that I've been sharing and bring it into the physical world and really, show this to restaurants, because we're running, not to fearmonger, but we're running out of time and we can't do this for the next 2 years. So, that's a way to expose the lockdowns, exposedlockdowns.com, printable packets that you can print out and share with people in your communities.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man, for coming on. I appreciate all you do, man, and everybody else does as well. You're doing big things, man. This is huge. So
thank you. That was really fun. I appreciate you, and thanks for reaching out and setting it up. This was fantastic. Appreciate you.
For sure. So much love and respect, bro. Have a good night.
You too.
Later.